Okay, we can be turning to Revelation chapter 13. For those of you that are visiting, you're in for a fun treat as we just jump headfirst into a beast rising up out of the sea with 10 horns and all that here in Revelation 13. So buckle up and hopefully this will at least make some sense to even the people that have been here the whole time. Much less the people that are just joining us for the first time, but I think it will. And I will say, I was thinking when to say this. I'll just go ahead and say it now. There's a lot of imagery in this chapter of Revelation, as we have been seeing, and it's kind of like a comic strip that's unfolding. It's exaggerated imagery, symbolism. There's a story, there's a narrative, a storyboard that we're piecing together through these chapters of Revelation. And it makes some pretty profound points, in my opinion, about the world that we live in and our response to it as the people of God. And one of the hard things about all of this, I mean, first you got to make sense of all the symbolism, or at least some of it, and understand what's going on. But then it's, okay, what does it mean for us? That's the question we always try to get to. I usually don't leave us enough time to really have that discussion. But that's really the key question. What does all this mean for us? How do we live as the people of God in light of everything being described here in Revelation? And it worked out well. I'm thankful to God for that this morning, because largely the answer to our question this morning of what does Revelation 13 mean for us, we've just heard. Talked about in the 3 and 4 talks that were given around the Lord's table this morning. And I think we will see the upside down nature of Jesus' conquering kingdom in these images, as well as the opposition that arises from the rest of the world that is still, as John said, they're really the ones upside down, but they have a kingdom of their own that is very imposing, very deceptive, very intimidating. And in the midst of that, we are called to live in this upside down kingdom of sacrificial, selfless love, in the example of our conquering Lamb, who is the Lion of Judah, but a slain Lamb. Okay, so keep all the thoughts from this morning in your mind as we work our way through Revelation 13. I do want to do a quick review of Revelation 12 because, again, we are picking up several frames into the storyboard. So we want to understand what's been happening going back to chapter 12. So some of the symbols we're told, and this makes it easier for us. Who is the dragon, the great enemy in chapter 12? It's told to us, who is the dragon? Satan, chapter 12 and verse 9. The great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent. That takes us back all the way to Genesis 3. Who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. Okay? The dragon is Satan. Okay, we got that much. At the beginning of chapter 12, what was Satan, or the dragon's, what was his first attempt as the story was unfolding? What was he first trying to do? Stop the birth, the coming of the Messiah. Okay, was he successful? No. The child was born, that is Jesus, taken up into heaven. Okay, and all of the life, death, burial, resurrection, ascension in between. Okay, so what was Satan's next attempt? I will get there in a second. Okay, the unsuccessful getting the Messiah. Okay, and then the next frame of the storyboard, we have this battle in heaven. And Satan is cast out. How is Satan cast out of heaven? Okay, verse 7 says that Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Is that the only answer to this question? Who else does it say is responsible for the casting out of Satan from heaven? Jesus, okay, because it says that it was done by the blood of the Lamb. But there's also another answer to this question. God's people, the saints. Thank you, Patty. Look at verse 10. I heard a loud voice in heaven. This is Revelation 12, verse 10. Now the salvation, the power, and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. For the accuser of our brothers, that's Satan, he's the accuser. The accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, who accuses them, that is the brothers, the saints, day and night before God. And they, that is the brothers, the saints, the people of God, have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb, by the word of their testimony, for they loved not their lives even unto death. You see, Jesus conquers because he is the slain Lamb. God's people participate and join him in overthrowing the dragon when they follow his example and they love not their lives and are even willing to give it up and lose their lives for the sake of the testimony of King Jesus, okay, by the blood of the Lamb. So, Satan is unsuccessful at throwing off God's plan of bringing the Messiah into the world. The Messiah conquers. Satan is then cast out of heaven as the angels and the people of God participate in that defeat. And so now, at the end of chapter 12, what is Satan's next aim now that he has been thrown out of heaven? What's he trying to do? War against who? The saints, God's people. The rest of chapter 12 says that the dragon was trying to first get the woman, and I think even the woman is a picture of God's people. He can't get the woman, he goes after the woman's offspring. So all of those who are after Jesus, sons and daughters of God, the people of God, Christians, Satan is going after them. Like a sports team that knows they've been beat, and so they're just going to flail and throw everything at the other team, knowing that they're going to lose. That's the position Satan's in at the end of chapter 12. He knows he's beat, and so he's going to flail and rage and fury and do as much damage to God's people as he can before he's finally and forever thrown down. Okay? That's where we're left at the end of chapter 12. And the scene actually is continuous, because the last statement of chapter 12 is, and he stood on the sand of the sea. Chapter 13 opens, I saw a beast rising out of the sea. Okay? So what we see in chapter 13, and we're actually going to read this in chunks, a little different than what we're used to in this class. We're just going to read these first 10 verses, okay? But again, Satan, the dragon, is defeated. He's on the earth trying to do as much damage to God's people as he can, and so he summons, at the end of 12, beginning of 13, summons this beast out of the sea for his purposes. As we read this scene, see it in your mind's eye and think, how is the dragon using the beast for his purposes? Let's read chapter 13 of Revelation 1 to 10. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems, that is crowns, on his horns, and blasphemous names on his heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet was like a bear's. Its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and his great authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who can fight against it? And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. And he opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Also, it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation. And all who dwell on the earth will worship it, everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who was slain. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is taken into captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone is to be slain with the sword he must be slain. Here is a call for the endurance of and faith of the saints. Okay, let's use a couple of our tools this morning in tackling Revelation 13. And the first of these is to see biblical patterns. Remember, Revelation is the culmination of all of these patterns and all of these symbols and stories from the rest of Scripture. And when you think of and you see beasts coming out of the sea, right? There's one passage, I should have asked you before I put it up there. There's one Old Testament passage that comes squarely to mind, and it should. And that is, what are you saying, Jordan? Oh, there, yeah. It's a good guess, Jordan. Way to use your noggin there, okay? Daniel 7. We've done Daniel recently, but in Daniel 7, there is actually a series of beasts that rise up out of the sea, okay? And they're terrifying and they are scary, okay? If you remember back to Daniel 7, Daniel's actually told, this is not a mystery. What do the beasts represent in Daniel 7? Nations or kingdoms, okay? Kingdoms of the earth, right? Now, in Daniel, we're not going to do it all now, but in our class, we show that it's not hard actually to see the identity, the historical identity of each of those beasts, because they match up with Nebuchadnezzar's dream in chapter 2, But those beasts, anybody remember what the four are? The first beast in Daniel 7 is the Babylonian Empire. The second beast is, the Persians, the Medes and the Persians, the Persian Empire. The third beast is the Greeks, okay? And the fourth beast is the Roman Empire. And that's the one not named in the book of Daniel, but it's pretty clear from history. If we know that the first three are Babylon, Persia, Greece, the next empire on the world stage is Rome. And so that's not hard to tease out, okay? So the question, when we come to the Revelation 13, come to Revelation 13, you see a beast rising out of the sea. We know Daniel 7, okay, this has to be an empire of some sort, right? Which beast of those four? Now, this is a little bit unfair because we didn't go through all the details of what the beast looked like. But the question would be, okay, does one of those beasts from Daniel 7 match this beast? And I'll do it myself, okay, because it's unfair to ask you to do it. But there's a few things we might say. There are descriptions of this beast in Revelation 13 that match with that fourth beast in Daniel 7. One of those is the description of the 10 horns. The fourth beast in Daniel 7 had 10 horns. And this idea of using haughty words, blasphemous words, great words that the beast is speaking in the earth. Same thing is said of that fourth beast in Daniel 7, okay? Also in Daniel 7, we're told later on in the description that fourth beast, that fourth empire is going to make war on the saints, okay? And we're told here in Revelation 13 that's precisely what this beast does. He goes to war to conquer the saints. So there's a lot, and I would say enough, correlation between the fourth beast in Daniel 7, that we said was the Roman Empire, and the beast in Revelation 13 to be pretty certain that there is an intentional correlation here, right? That the Spirit, through John, is intentionally identifying this beast first as the Roman Empire, okay? But, all right, I want to point out something else, and maybe you noticed this too when I asked you, well, which beast does Revelation 13 resemble? Did you notice how it was described? It was described as a composite and had in the one beast, lion, which was actually the first beast, and bear, which was the second beast, leopard, which is the third beast, and then it has elements of the fourth. And I think because of that, really the beast in Revelation, yes, there's supposed to be an intentional correlation to the Roman Empire, but the fact that it's all of the empires kind of composite as one shows us that, yes, this is Rome, but it's not just Rome. It's any empire, it's every nation, every kingdom of man that fits this description of what this beast is and what it represents, that's the beast, okay? So it's I think, signaling us not to get so fixated on, well, this is Rome, that we miss that a lot of other nations before Rome and after Rome fit the exact same description of the beast of Revelation 13, okay? Does that make sense, what I'm saying there? All right, I'll show it to you in a clever one-line thing here in just a second. But before we do that, let's just remember, what was the end of the story in Daniel 7? These four terrifying beasts that are empires, right? Rise up out of the sea. What's the end of that story in Daniel 7? The Son of Man, right? One like the Son of Man is exalted. All of the empires of man are conquered. The Son of Man establishes his everlasting kingdom. And not just the Son of Man, but Daniel 7 is very explicit that the saints receive the kingdom of God forever. That's the end of Daniel 7, okay? And so if Revelation 13 is describing a terrifying beast, a terrifying empire, okay, well, it's scary, but we know the end of the story from Daniel 7 and the end of the story in Revelation, of course, is the same. So our biblical pattern tool, especially using Daniel 7 in this instance, helps us to see that the beast of Revelation 13 is the empire, and again, Rome, but then any other empire which exalts itself in pride and persecutes the people of God. Okay? The beast is the empire that exalts itself in pride and persecutes the people of God. Rome, first correlation for its readers in first century Roman Asia, but any other empire that fits that description. Comments or questions before we move on to another tool that we'll use to break down this text here? Cool. No questions because everything is understood perfectly. Oh, John, except for John.
You went to Daniel And so, Daniel 2 and 7 have similarities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as scary as this is, if the readers were to remember Daniel 7, they would also remember Daniel 2, and that this beast is of iron and clay, which do not mix and will not uphold. So as scary as it is temporary or failing.
That's right. Amen. Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah, David.
Upside down kingdom. And if you were somebody who was receiving this message and you understand the deep context of Christ's administration and this spiritual realm and the tenets of that realm and what drives it and how it juxtaposes to the physical realm, which will ultimately be defeated, which is predicated in pride and self and the now and all this would make sense and be encouraging.
Thank you, David. And let's actually kind of keep using that or keep thinking about that as we do this next thing here, okay? So one of our tools for making sense of Revelation is to use biblical patterns. Go back to the Old Testament, see the symbols, see the patterns, and how Revelation is picking up those things. Another tool we tried to stress is seeing it in context. It's so easy to pull out one really weird symbol in the middle of Revelation and be like, oh, well, what could this possibly mean? Well, this is a story that's unfolding, and the whole story fit together helps us to make sense of each individual part, okay? So don't forget that this beast, the empire here, this beast is in the employ of the dragon from chapter 12. We know who the dragon is. It's Satan. So look at what we just read in Revelation 13, 1 to 10. Okay? How is the dragon using the beast? What do you see in this text here? You don't have to understand what it means to answer this question, okay? At least specifically. But how do we see the dragon using the beast? Satan using this empire. Goes after the saints, Brian says, thank you. We're already told that Satan is trying to do everything he can to destroy the saints. So he's using the empire to do that. What else, David? Blaspheming, okay? That is, what does blaspheme mean? We use that word all the time. What does it actually mean? Yeah, to speak as if you're God or to say things that go against God or tear down his authority or his honor, okay? So persecuting, blaspheming. How else is the dragon using the beast? You said giving him power? Thank you, Alex. The dragon gives the beast power and authority to do all these things. To what end? What does the dragon get out of it? See this exchange here, this transaction? Okay, thank you, Dan. They worship the dragon. Fidencio, what were you saying? Okay, Fidencio says a cheap replica of God and Jesus relationship. Okay, thank you, Fidencio. Let's put all this together here. All right, the transaction here is that the dragon gives authority and power to the beast. And in return, as Dan says, the beast causes all people to worship the beast, yes, but ultimately to worship the dragon. Okay? That's the relationship here. And so there's persecution, there's blaspheming that is taking place. All right? Now, Fidencio, this is eerie here. This is not a magic trick. I'm just clicking the thing here. But along these lines, I think intentionally this relationship, as Fidencio pointed out, is intended to be a replica. Cheap replica was the phrase Fidencio used. That's even better, I think. Counterfeit, parody, okay? You tell me, what do you see in these first 10 verses of Revelation 13? How is this like a mock version of the lamb, the beast here? What about the beast is like a parody or a counterfeit of the lamb in Revelation? He performs great signs. He has a mortal wound that's been healed, and the result of that is what? Yeah, the world is in awe of the beast. Okay, you see how that's a cheap version of the Lamb who was slain. I am the one Jesus said, "I died and I am alive forevermore." There's power in that. Okay, resurrection. The beast has like a version of that. He's been slain, mortal wound, but he's been healed, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, look how awesome this beast is because he took on this great wound." I mean, we all love that in any movie. The hero struck down to the point of death, but they come back and they're victorious in the end. The world loves that about the beast, okay? But it's a counterfeit to the Lamb, okay? So we have that one here. We said we said what did you say, David? The great signs that he performs. What else do you see is counterfeit here to the Lamb? What does he want all people to say about him? Yeah, and specifically, verse 4. Who is like the beast, right? Doesn't that kind of remind you again in a cheap replica of Revelation 5? No one is worthy except the Lamb. Who is like the beast? There's no one like the beast, okay? So he's worshiped in that way. Let me point out a couple other things that are interesting, okay? Notice the text says in verse 7 that the beast has authority to conquer every tribe, people, language, and nation. That is the foursome that is used in Revelation and other places to describe what Jesus does when he brings together people from all tribes and peoples and language and nations, okay? That was, again, back to Revelation 4 and 5, the praise given to God and to the Lamb. Here the beast, he seeks to conquer those from every tribe, people, language, and nation. And then basically we could summarize it with this transaction that we've already described. That, again, you're thinking counterfeit here. So, ultimately, God is the one sitting on the throne with all authority. And who has he given that authority to? Matthew 28 and verse 18. Jesus. All authority, Jesus says, has been given to me. God the Father gives all authority to Jesus, the Son, the Lamb. And as a result of Jesus' work, what was Jesus' constant prayer in the Gospels? What was he trying to accomplish? To bring glory to God. Okay? That all would glorify God. Okay? But in this counterfeit arrangement here, right, in this like twisted version of the Father and the Son, the dragon, Satan, gives authority to the beast, this empire, who causes all people ultimately to worship the dragon. Okay? So, the beast then, in Revelation 13, is the empire, again, Rome and others, who sets itself up as a god in the place of God to the diabolical end. I use that word on purpose because for our Spanish speakers, right? Diabolical literally means of the devil. Okay. Thank you, Lee. Our Spanish speakers, like Lee. No. That's right. Diabolical, right? Of Satan himself. But notice this, because maybe you were wondering when we got to all this, you're saying, well, was Rome really going around telling people to worship Satan? Okay. No. Right? Now, in Rome, there was actually a literal, as we've said, a literal worship of whom? The king or the emperor. Thank you, Wendy. Okay. So that was literally going on. Okay. But even still, well, they weren't worshiping Satan. But what has Satan been trying to do from Genesis chapter 3 on? What was the whole deal in Genesis 3? Was he trying to get Adam and Eve to bow down to him? No, he was trying to get them to do what? To disobey, to follow him, but yeah, to pass, to reject God's will and God's command and God's wisdom and follow their own wisdom and to do their own thing, to lay hold of their own destiny. And that, I think, is what we would say about the beast's actions in Revelation 13, or Satan's actions in Revelation 13. His ultimate end is that honor and trust and adoration would be given to men and not to God. And when that happens, Satan's won. Okay? And he's accomplished what he's been trying to accomplish from Genesis chapter 3. Deceive mankind into thinking you can do it on your own. You can follow your own ways, and that will turn out better for you than following after God's ways. Okay? And so this empire, in Revelation 13, is used by Satan to do this very thing. To make sure that honor and trust and adoration is given to the empire, and therefore, ultimately, Satan's purposes are accomplished. Okay? Questions or comments about that before we plug on ahead here to the rest of chapter 13? Okay, and I do want to leave a little bit of time at the end. As I said earlier, we don't always get to do that, but you can just go re-listen to what was said around the Lord's table this morning, and it'll be all the application points. But let's keep going, and then maybe get a chance to discuss more specifically what this all means for us. Okay? Revelation 13 continues with another beast. You see that in your text, Revelation 13, verse 11. But let me say this before we read. In Daniel 7, whenever there was another beast, what did that mean? Yeah, a new kingdom or new empire. I don't think that's what's going on in Revelation 13. Because as we'll see, there is a cooperative arrangement here between the beasts, as opposed to Daniel 7. In Daniel 7, whenever a new beast came up, what happened to the other beast? Yeah, when the ram, remember chapter 8, when the ram and the goat, is that right, John? Okay. When the ram and the goat went at each other, okay, the goat won, the ram lost, right? Here, we don't see one is displaced and another one rises up. We see that they're working together. So see this as another aspect of the same empire, not a different empire here, if that helps make a little more sense of what's going on. But let's read Revelation 13, 11 to 18, as this description continues. That I saw another beast rising out of the earth, and it had two horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon, and it exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire coming down from heaven to the earth in front of people. And by its signs that is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and might cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, slave and free, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has that mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number, it is the number of a man, and its number is 666, or 666. Okay. So again, in general terms here, as we continue the story of Revelation 13, what kind of tactics do you see here? We're calling this the earth beast, is the one that we have just read about, comes up out of the earth. The sea beast was the one from earlier, who came up out of the sea. So, in the verses we just read, what tactics does the earth beast employ to make people worship the sea beast? What kind of things is he doing? Signs and wonders. Thank you, John. What else? Yeah, Albert?
Dragon doesn't have this dragon doesn't have a chosen successor and or minion. It's whoever wants to rise to power, he's going to let them, and if it overrules the other one, that's great. His goal is to separate those who have the freedom to choose from God and be marked by him. You're going to be marked. You're going to be a slave. It's either a slave to Satan or a slave to God and his kingdom, but slavery to God is a great gift that we have to realize over time. But it's just continually those things of this earth that entice us is what these nations that uprise are doing.
Thank you, Albert. So we have the using of the attractions of the world to entice, as well as the marking of who belonged to him. Maybe one more answer here. What tactics or strategies is the earth beast using to make people worship the sea beast? Yeah, there's a compulsory thing here. What might happen to you in this passage here if you're not worshiping the beast and or the dragon? Exile, you may be slain, and you may be cut out of the marketplace, not be able to buy or sell. So these are the tactics that are used. As John said, the earth beast is performing signs and wonders to deceive. By the way, this is another counterfeit thing. Remember the witnesses, the people of God in chapter 11? They were able to make fire come down on those, right? That was the power of Elijah given to them by God. Well, the earth beast has his own kind of version of that here as a counterfeit, okay? Excuse me, sorry. In a counterfeit way of the Spirit, and some people have seen that, by the way. We mentioned the Father and Son. Some people put it all together and say, dragon, earth beast, sea beast, or dragon, sea beast, earth beast are like a counterfeit, twisted trinity of God, the Son, and the Spirit, okay? And so, as the Spirit is the breath of God that gives life to his people, here, the earth beast is giving life to the lifeless image of the sea beast, okay? He slays those who will not worship, and he excludes those who don't belong to him and his mark from the marketplace. Real quickly, let me just address that. Why, how could we go through 3 months on the book of Revelation and not make a comment about 666 and the mark of the beast, right? So it's compulsory. We have to do it. There's a couple different options I think that are fine, that work. One of them is that it's Ronald Reagan. No, I'm just kidding. Ronald Wilson Reagan, right? 666. It's so obvious. Okay. The crew of people I'm reading and listening to and trust with Revelation here, a lot of them, all of them point to the fact that in Hebrew, Nero Caesar is the numeric value of that is 666. Now that doesn't make any sense to us, but the Hebrew, then the Hebrew language, each letter had a numerical value, and this was a thing for them. There are other passages that we could, if you wanted to get a cup of coffee and talk about passages that use this kind of numbering system, they understood it. It was a thing. Just trust me on that. And Nero Caesar is the numerical value in Hebrew of 666, right? So again, you would see that. It's easy to see as as a representation of the Roman Empire. If this infamous ruler from a couple decades ago, Nero Caesar, right, is the 666. Okay. Again, that doesn't mean that it can only be him, because we are saying that if Rome is kind of the first version of this, then it's Nero, it's Caesar, it's Rome, but it's also every other leader, every other beast that comes later. Okay. But maybe even more simply than that, okay, we've seen the significance of the number 7 in Revelation all through the Bible, right? The 7 days of creation, that's the number of the eternal, it's the number of the divine, right? God's number, so to speak. And so if 777, for instance, 3 is the superlative, holy, 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 then 666, by the way, 6th the day that man was created, 7th the day that God rested, the eternal day of rest, okay? 666 is exactly what we've been saying. It's the counterfeit. It's the cheap replica of God. Okay, it's the ways of man, right? And I'm actually as good with that as with anything else. And so if you want to make more of it, again, there's opportunity to do that. But this is the counterfeit. This is the cheap replica. Okay, this is the number of man that the beast marks on people, as opposed to being marked with the mark of God. And let's not forget, because I think this would be in view too, what had God told his people all the way back from Deuteronomy chapter 4? You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And what were you supposed to do with those words? Where were you supposed to put them? On your hearts, on your foreheads, and on your hands. Okay? Be marked by God with the single-minded devotion of you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. What the beast is trying to do is trying to mark people that belong to him, that have that same sort of single-minded devotion, but to him, to the empire, to man, and not to God, and to God's kingdom. Okay? And so, nations, beasts, use deception, force, economic pressure even, to achieve conformity, to bring people in line with them, to worship them, so to speak, and not God. Okay, in order to persecute, or in order to do Satan's work of bringing down the saints. Okay, when are we going to quit? Because that's going to depend on we're going to choose our own adventure here. When are we going to quit? Anybody can tell me? Dan, Jeremy, can you guys tell me? In 10 minutes from now? Perfect. 11 minutes. All right. So here's the question I'll ask you, and we can talk about it together for some time that we have left. All right. What does this mean for us? If the picture of Revelation 13 is an empire, it's a nation that is Rome, but is also every other nation in the likeness and in the image of Rome. Okay. That Satan, the dragon, uses, right, to conquer God's people in these various ways. Okay, what does that mean for us? How does the beast come after us? What does the beast do? How can he be successful in conquering us as the people of God? And then what does it mean for us? How do we conquer the beast and the dragon according to what we're seeing here in Revelation? Anybody want to jump off the high dive here? Brian, get us started here. We'll have a conversation about this.
I'll give it a shot. But in two principles, God seeks to influence and call us to him through the intellect, through the mind, through the word. Satan seeks to influence us, to draw us to him through the desires of the flesh and all that the world offers to satisfy that desire. So Satan works upon us to conceal the truth of God's word. It becomes foolishness. And that seek after the hevel, the smoke, the vapor of this life that's transitory and temporal, and treat it as if it's eternal, and treat that which is eternal as if it doesn't exist.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. What else would you say? And again, the question here is about the beast. That is the empire, the nation, the state.
Well, that clarification throws me off. I don't know if I'm straight.
Well, no, just
or
answer.
there.
Just say what you're going to say.
Well, almost back to my original point is, and you mentioned this. This is the thing that scares me actually about how perceivable sort of the world and Satan can creep into your subconscious and direct how you interpret things and see the world and conduct your life. Because he doesn't come right out and say, like, worship Satan. He didn't tell Eve that. He doesn't tell me that. In imperceivable ways, he defines the tenets of your life, and the beast controls your life. And for so long, we look at world religions and we think, this religion says this, maybe it's Jehovah's Witness. This religion says this, maybe it's Catholicism. We never look at the world as a religion in and of itself. And that's why I think when we see the world breaking down today, it's almost a good thing, because they're exposing themselves for what they are. Like just for example, let's take the LGBTQ movement. It's a religion. It isn't a movement. It's a religion. They have their own priests. They have their own tenets. They have their own philosophies. It's all about me. I'm perfect the way that I am. And they convince people that their self is of value. Not that they're broken, not that they need a savior, not that they should live for others. It's me. And that's just one example, because there's 100 examples of these world religions. The beast comes in and captivates your hearts and turns your attention inward to yourself, just like he did with Eve, but in various manifestations of that.
Thank you, David. Jordan?
It's the half-truths. You know, the serpent said you'll be like God, which obviously, you know, a light of itself, but still a half-truth. And so I think, you know, the coercion, the deceiving here in chapter 13, the end result, though, is cataclysmic. So I wonder if that's us, do we wake up one day and realize, oh my goodness, we have the mark of the beast now, and we didn't necessarily knowingly go into it, but here it is. So I guess my point is, these small decisions each and every day add up, and they matter, as David just said. And so if we're not careful, that's how we can find that could be us.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan. And Michael, and then I'll say some things.
I was thinking about just, for us, you know, we feel like we're free. We're in America, but there's societal pressures, you know, and we live in this ecosystem of where certain things are acceptable and certain things are not, you know, and you know, if you're scared to go against that, then the beast conquers you. And so one of the ways he conquers us is through fear of standing out differently from the pressures we feel within our society.
No, thank you, Michael. So here's a few thoughts, and you're more than welcome to disagree with me, like many of you probably do on a regular basis. So the first thing I'll say is, remember that we right now in the United States of America are not the only people on the planet. I know that's kind of weird to think about, but this kind of thing may be harder for us to understand than, for instance, if you're a Christian living in China. Okay, I've heard stories, testimonies, you know, about people, Christians, our brothers and sisters, by name. You know, in China, if you're not a member of the party, the Communist Party, you are excluded from job advancements and from making a better living for yourself and for your family. And you can't be an open Christian and belong to the Communist Party because they have their own church. They have again, it's a counterfeit, okay? And so I know of Christians by name that have chosen to stand up for their faith and not join the party and not join the party's church. And the result of that is they are cut out of the marketplace. Their job is in danger. They cannot ever advance again in their career. Okay? Or imagine you're a Christian living in Iran right now. And to be an open follower of Jesus means that you're going to be imprisoned by a government that is also holding up the religion of a false god, a counterfeit lamb and a counterfeit God. And so to come out as an open Christian would mean that you are going to have to pay steep taxes, maybe be thrown in prison, maybe even killed, beheaded. Okay? That's 2023, that's right now. Okay? That's maybe harder for us to get. Right? But you and I are living in America. And so it's maybe, we think about ourselves. And there's some other things that we could talk about. I mean, as you all have said, it's subtle, okay? And that means there's some tricky decisions and tricky situations that we might find ourselves in. But we need to think critically about this kind of stuff. I mean, America, like every nation that's gone before it, uses religious type fervor, right? We call it patriotism, but it's a religious type of fervor, okay? And hymns that are sung to the state and rituals that are performed for the state, okay? Because we are proud to be American. And that deeply influences all of us, myself included, who have been born here and have been raised here with those ideals. And David mentioned the ideals, the values that we live by. How many of the values that we live by are American and not maybe Christian? Okay. Is commercialism part of the American religion? Is individuality at all costs part of the American religion? Okay. And we could go on and on. And there may come a day that the state literally begins to impose certain moral, guidelines, right, on churches, right, or on people, and we're going to have to, like our brothers and sisters across the world right now, make some of those hard decisions. But we don't know that for sure, okay? But let me say one other thing as our time is quickly running out. Don't forget Revelation 2 and 3 and the 7 churches, okay? Some of the churches in Revelation 2 and 3, the beast was coming after them, and they had their brothers killed, Antipas, my faithful witness, and they were being persecuted, thrown in jail because of their faith, and that was the way that Satan was coming after them, right? Or the beast was coming after them under the employ of Satan. Some of those were being pressured, right, like this in the marketplace, to make financial sacrifices, and that was putting the pressure on them. But do you remember that a couple of the churches in Revelation 2 and 3, they weren't being persecuted. They weren't being pressured. In fact, you remember the church of which it was said, I am full, I am rich, and therefore I am in need of nothing. And we've called that complacency. So maybe we would say this. If in China, the economic pressure of the state causes Christians to renounce their faith in Jesus and go after a counterfeit, the beast has won and Satan has won. In Iran, if the threat of imprisonment or beheading causes Christians to renounce their faith in Jesus and pledge their faith to Allah or to Muhammad, then the beast has won. And like some of those churches in Revelation 2 and 3, if in America the beast has fed us and given us nice homes to live in and plenty of money and plenty of food and has lulled us into a sense of complacency that we're in need of nothing because we are fat and happy, and we stop serving God the way that we're supposed to, and we lose our fervor because we're fed, our mouths are fed well by the beast, and we become apathetic and lazy, then the beast has won, and Satan has won. He has many tactics. And we talk a lot in Revelation about coming after Christians and them being persecuted and thrown in prison. And yes, the Christians in Revelation were dealing with some of that, but not all of them. Some of them, like us perhaps, are dealing mostly with complacency because their lives are so comfortable. I am full, I am rich, and I am in need of nothing. And the beast uses that strategy as well to get God's people to give up on actively giving their testimony of King Jesus, the upside-down king who conquered not through attaining the freedom and the money and the wealth and the position of the world that the American religion causes us to seek after, but who conquered through self-sacrifice and service and lowliness and undying devotion to God. They conquered by the blood of the Lamb because they loved not their lives even unto death. That's our calling from the book of Revelation. And we'll pick that up with a poignant passage in Revelation 14 of those who follow the Lamb wherever he would go. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.